Hey everybody, this is it. This is the final project. If you think back to the very first assignment that you had here, the Foursquare project, and then think about everything that you've done since then, you're going to be applying all of those skills, all of that technical knowledge to this project. This project is really about showing me everything that you've learned in this class this semester. So it's a lot. You're going to be connecting a lot of dots between and doing a lot of creative problem solving in terms of, okay, this is my task, and then how exactly am I going to do that? There's no one right way. There is a correct format that I'm looking for in terms of you're creating a book that you're going to turn in as both a PDF and as a printed copy. You'll turn in two printed copies. And there are steps that everybody will have to take to get there, but overall this is your own creative direction, solving this kind of big creative problem and thinking about incorporating some type of storytelling with this project as well. So I'm very briefly just going to talk about this document, which is pretty self-explanatory once you open it up. So each of you is going to contribute 2 images to a discussion forum on Blackboard called Images for Final Go Here. These are due, that due date is listed on Blackboard on the discussion forum site and also in the project description. And you're submitting 1 raster image and 1 vector image. The raster image should be 300 ppi and a JPEG. It can be of anything, really humans, animals, but you must be the maker. So you took the picture. And 1 vector image, and this should be in AI format, so something that you've drawn in Illustrator. And you're going to use all of the images contributed to that discussion forum by your classmates in your final project. And I say here in some way. So when I show you the examples, I'll talk more about that. You're going to reflect on how you used all the images in a written component that's going to be on the back. So I give you some tips in terms of keeping yourself organized, because that can really be the most intimidating part is, okay, I have 36 images. How do I even get started? And really the first step is just getting organized. And then, you are creating a booklet that must be minimum 8 pages long. So this is the sizing for your pages. This is for print, so 300 ppi. And you can make your pages in either Photoshop or Illustrator. Considering your cover designs is important, and I give you some examples on the interface from a graphic designer named Chip Kidd, who's kind of like a book cover illustrator rock star. I give you the format that I'm looking for when you turn it in, the nomenclature, and then what I'm looking for in the written component as well. Okay, so this is the first semester that I'm doing this project as a book, and so that's why the examples that I'm showing you are not in book format but are similar. So in terms of getting started, you should think about looking through all of the images, downloading them all from that discussion forum, and then maybe consider sketching or storyboarding, having some sort of outline to help brainstorm your story, because you are thinking about, how can I tell a kind of logical narrative using all of these images. This links to Chip Kidd's portfolio of cover designs. He's designed so many book covers, some of them very, very, very famous, like the Jurassic Park book cover by Michael Crichton. Consider spreads. So a spread is when you open a magazine or a book up, the 2 pages that are right next to each other. So how can your pages interact with one another through imagery and text? How can your text interact with your images? And you'll also draw inspiration from the children's books that we look at. Consider your audience or your reader. Who is this book for? I really love this profile by Mo Willems. And this links to a video on YouTube where he's talking about the challenge and the advantage of writing for children, in that you really can't get too specific, that you're mentioning generalities more than anything else, general life principles. And don't forget the written component on the back. You're going to print 2 hard copies through the Copy and Print Center, which I have a separate video included. But this is just what that interface looks like, which you should be familiar with. So student examples. So in the past, students have created 3 compositions that sort of took over a row on Instagram. Instagram has that sort of gridded format. So each student had to produce 3 works where they had to use all of the images contributed by their classmates and try to produce some type of logical project. So with the book project, you're producing, 8 pages minimum worth of work, and that includes the front and back cover. You have free reign as far as your book's content or concept. What I'm really looking for is a clear, considered direction. I want to see that you put some thought into the story. And it's going to take a lot of critical thinking and creative problem solving to make logic out of all of these, what I expect to be disparate images that are contributed. But you have the advantage of incorporating text into your book to help guide the narrative. And really, I would suggest not including a ton of text. Thinking about children's books and the sort of how little text you can get away with in terms of aiding the visuals and hinting at what's going on, or giving just enough to the reader, that's what should be considered. So this student, in this first image, didn't include a lot of vector imagery, but in the second and the third drawings they did. But this student utilized every single image that was contributed in each drawing, which was above and beyond what I was looking for. And they also had to, their drawings were based on like a room template, so that's why they had to utilize perspective in that way. But you all know how to do that now. You know how to use the transform tools in Photoshop. But really kind of interesting set of images. This student produced these 3 drawings that suggest a story of aging, which I love. So the story begins in a treehouse when the unseen protagonist is a child. So this student illustrated that sort of treehouse interior, and you'll notice the dog. And then the protagonist is away at college, and she edited the dog a bit so it's going gray with age, which I thought was so smart. And the field hockey stick remains consistent. And then finally, the protagonist has an apartment of their own, and there's a picture of the dog who has since passed away on the mantle. And so that sort of like picture memorializes the dog. And again, the student did a lot of drawing to sort of help fill in the narrative. This student produced images that suggest the evolution of a relationship. So a first date over coffee during the winter time. And then a romantic night in. It was also sort of a changing of the seasons. So this was when the weather was nicer. They have this lovely open skylight. And then the final scene, fast forwarding to the couple's child's bedroom. So a great start of a developing story. Great mix of drawn elements with raster-based imagery. All these images connect to each other in a way, which I think is really great. Also utilized effects in Illustrator really strongly. Excellent storytelling suggested in terms of like this crime scene and like security area. And this was very thought out. And she added some drawn elements and just worked really hard on this. And this was another sort of celebration of the seasons, but the consistency among the rooms helped suggest a narrative of some sort. And then this was one that was not as successful. There is this suggestion of a developing narrative or storyline, but no vector images were used, and this student admittedly did not use everybody's images. And that's something that students will ask me, like, well, how do you know? Because really you can get away with cutting and pasting, very small snippets of some images that you've downloaded and then incorporating those into your drawings in some way. So if you wanted a snippet of the sky or a snippet of grass from an image, then you could then utilize elsewhere. And I can tell whether you've used them all. So that's just something that, trust me, I know. So there are some examples, but follow the tips and the guides. The final exercises should help you too in terms of utilizing selection tools. And as always, if you have any questions, reach out to me. All right, thanks everybody.